Welcome, football fans, but most importantly, USFL fans, to Week 6 recap. Tell me about it. A special edition with the Blitz Brothers themselves, me, Ace, my brother Maverick over there. Mav, what's it like being a Panthers fan?
Well, we had a good run for those first 2 weeks, but now we've lost 4 in a row. So no dancing this week. It's been a tough road, but we'll be back. I can feel it. We're still in second place in the North, so just outside of the playoff picture as of now. But
yeah, you're lucky. You're in the division that you can lose most games and still be in the playoff hunt. That's ridiculous.
Hey, the North has its perks.
Yeah, whatever.
The North team just beat the best team in the South, probably. So
no, they are not the best team in the South. No, don't even say that.
Okay, it's changed week to week. So
don't even say that.
What was the best team in the South just lost to the team in the North. And now you can't say that because you can't admit that the North might be a little better.
The North is not better. It is not better at all. But we'll talk about our two teams and then the Stars in general at the end. But how about we get into some of these videos that our network correspondents were nice enough to send in to us. Who you want to hear first? You want Stallions, Breakers, Boats, or Maulers?
Let's talk about the Breakers. That was a good game.
Breakers it is. Let's do it.
To start the game, the Breakers would get the ball first, but they would go 3 and out. Philadelphia would then take the ball, go down the field, get into the red zone, but they would have to settle for a field goal. Your score at the end of the first was 3-0 Philly. Philadelphia would start the second quarter with a long field goal drive. They would get into the red zone again, but have to settle for 3. And then Amani Dennis would pick off McLeod Bethel-Thompson and take it to the house to give them a 13-0 lead. Johnny Dixon, in his first game back, getting a touchdown reception, and your score would be 13-7 going into the half. To start the second half, Philadelphia would get the ball, go 3 and out. New Orleans would go down the field and kick a field goal, making it 13-10. The Breakers would then get an interception, but they would miss the field goal, and it was 13-10 at the end of the third. Philadelphia in the fourth quarter would then kick another red zone field goal. Final score would be 16-10 Philadelphia.
All right, I just want to caveat that I know the score says that the Philadelphia Stars beat the Breakers, but the Philadelphia Stars did not beat the Breakers. The Philadelphia Stars secondary and kicker beat the Breakers. I mean, that the offense is good enough to get them into the red zone, and I think that has a lot to do with Case Cookis. And he looked pretty good during that game. He threw a couple of really bad interceptions, but I think you go to every single USFL game this year, and good quarterbacks are throwing bad interceptions in every game. So
that's true.
I mean, it was MBT on the other side was doing the exact same thing, throwing bad interceptions. Just one of them happened to go for 6. So that was the big difference in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row that we're seeing MBT throw bad picks, and it's not a good look. But you're right. It was the Stars' defense. I'm going to say whole defense because that's the second week in a row that West Hills has been shut down, right?
Yeah.
And that's no easy feat because the man had 8 touchdowns in 4 weeks, and then now he's gone 2 weeks with less than 100 yards, 0 touchdowns. So their whole defense was playing well. But yeah, Luis Aguilar, he's the whole thing. It's like the Maulers where in no man's land in the field, they can move the ball all they want. But as soon as they touch the red zone, it's Dunskies. So, let's talk about the Stars. We don't have someone here to talk about the Stars. We don't have a video, so let's talk about it. I think that they have shown that they become a better team. They have, they looked bad. They looked really bad after week 1. Their offensive line got banged up. Case Cookis wasn't looking the same because he's spending the entire time on the ground. And now they picked up an offensive lineman. They've picked up some pieces that they needed here and there, and it looks like they're putting it back together. I believe in Bart Andrus. I think that they could easily make the playoffs at this point, especially being in the North.
Yeah, I don't think that their offensive line has gotten any better. I think it's that we're now later in the season to where those offensive linemen on every team have taken tons and tons of snaps. Every team has been banged up at the offensive line position, and I think other teams are catching up to the Stars. And now we're seeing the Stars, they have depth, they have offensive weapons, and now they've emerged as probably the most likely playoff team in the North. And I think, they're going to be dangerous if they make the playoffs.
I agree. But then when you look at the Breakers side, go back to what Logan said. I think it's funny watching the videos from each network correspondent because we each take it like a different way. I talk very broad. Logan literally chops up a video together, so he's talking about each quarter and the plays that happened. I think that's interesting. But he described it well. Amani Dennis really was the difference in that game.
Yeah, my videos are always just stats. I like to say who had big plays, who scored the touchdowns, how many field goals, and then final score. And then, what are we going to do next week? And that's about my video. But I will say about the Stars, I know you and I are both Baylor guys, but man, Corey Coleman is easily a top wide receiver in this league. He is
top 5.
Oh, yeah. I'd say top 3. I mean, depends on if you include Sage Surratt as a receiver or as a tight end, even though I think he's just a big receiver.
I don't hate that.
So,
I mean, stat-wise, he's up there. He's leading the Stars in catches almost every game.
He's always open. It's unbelievable. Coming from a Michigan fan where it feels like our wide receivers just can't get open, it makes me very jealous to watch Corey Coleman play in the red and yellow. So,
yeah, I think the Stars are figuring it out, and now everybody's figuring out the Breakers. That's the way that I would describe this game, is that the Breakers, everybody realized, okay, we're going to contain Wes Hills. We're going to play some man, and we're going to prove that MBT isn't as accurate as everybody wants to say. And it's working. So we'll see how the Stallions handle it this week against the Breakers. Speaking of the Stallions, here's our man Buck talking about their win last week against your Panthers.
Well, it's time to talk about that Stallions win over the Michigan Panthers. A very close game. Both offense and defense had some off spots against the Panthers. And a tough environment. Ford Field, of course, NFL Stadium. You bring in those Panthers fans. So, that's something that the Stallions are having to adjust to this year. Is no, straight Birmingham games, having to travel. But the Stallions go. They get the win. Interesting game, hot and cold in some areas. But overall, an exciting Stallions win, especially with the Breakers' loss. The South is wide open for the Stallions, and this was an important win for them to get. And it's very exciting because right now the path is very open for the Stallions in the playoffs. A lot to talk about on Stallions' run this upcoming week.
All right. I love that he plugged his show. He's like, yeah, make sure you watch Stallions. I'm like, I'll talk about it more. I'm glad. He does go into it a lot more there. But what do you think? So let's talk about your team because they played against the Stallions. So I didn't think, other than the quarterback position, I don't think the Panthers look that bad.
I don't think they look bad. Our defense, gets big stops, gets the turnovers. We're top 3 in turnovers this year for defense, and we're still by far the worst plus minus team because we turn the ball over by far the most. We didn't even have a turnover this week, and we are still leading the league in turnovers on offense by 2. So, yeah. So that was definitely that was Michigan's game to win. I mean, it felt like the whole game, it felt like we were just one big play away, but just poor game management absolutely killed the Panthers and any momentum we could have built. We were about to tie it up going into halftime, and all of a sudden, Josh Love just falls on the ball without any timeouts so that we can't kick a 30-yard field goal. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't understand where the play calling has gone for Michigan of why does Josh Love have to make a super impressive throw and we have to have a diving catch just to get first downs? What happened to the running back screens, wide receiver screens, the slants, the outs? Where did those go? Why are we only throwing deep posts that are getting picked off because Josh Love is getting mauled every play? Let's get the ball to our playmakers. Let them make moves. We can't score in the red zone anymore. I think we have 1 touchdown.
It's bad
in the last 2 games in the red zone. So we saw a burst in that third quarter when we scored the touchdown. There was a burst of offense where it seemed like we were moving the ball on demand. I mean, Josh Love threw a deep touchdown to Cole Hikatini. Then a penalty brought it back.
A great one.
We got back into the red zone, and then he threw another touchdown to Cole Hikatini. It just seemed like we were moving the ball on, big chunks at a time. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why we get away from that. But I don't want to put this on our defense at all, because they've been making the plays. They've been keeping teams low, but there's nothing you can do when you're turning the ball over in your own red zone.
I mean, it really says something about your offense when you are the team who has the most defensive player of the weeks as a team, and yet you can only win 2 games, like 4 in a row. Frank Ginda's playing his mind like out of his mind. Breland Speaks is playing like a man possessed. Your secondary is good enough to stop people. Like that, they're the reason that you guys feel like you're in games. But you're right. The play calling, it's become incredibly elementary. I mean, you could sit there and basically call what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
There was just one really good drive when they were kind of rushing it, and maybe go up tempo, maybe do that to get something.
They only had 1 first down on that drive where they ran up the middle. Otherwise, they were throwing on first downs, getting 7 yards. Then all of a sudden they could run and they could pass, and it was both working. Because all of a sudden the defense had to respect that they could pass at any second. And then we went right back to it. So, yeah. I mean, we turned the ball over, had the perfect chance to tie the game back up, and we couldn't do it, settled for the field goal, and then Alex Magoo put it away. So,
yeah, I'm kind of torn this week because you have the new quarterback, Luerk, and I kind of want to see if he can get something going. But you also feel like it's too late in the year at this point, because you would really have to simplify your play calling down with a new quarterback this late, where the defenses are playing more complex schemes. A lot of offenses are doing a lot more things that they weren't doing earlier in the year. So you're really taking a step back, and it's upsetting because you feel like this team deserves more, but that stinks. But back to the Stallions, which Buck was talking about, I really think that without Alex Magoo, this is one of the worst teams in the league. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think so. There's a team called the Pittsburgh Maulers and the Michigan Panthers that I think are probably a little worse than the old Birmingham Stallions. But I think with Alex Magoo, at least he can run. And you saw it in the Michigan game. He, on third and longs, he's running for first downs. He's getting 18 yards, and that can completely change a drive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying without Alex Magoo.
Oh, you're saying without him.
Without Magoo, this is the worst team in the league.
Well, but then they're down 2 quarterbacks, and
I don't know. I don't even think with J.R. Smith they're still doing this. I think Alex still wins this job. He's playing so well. And the way that the defense is playing, because they really were able to rely on their defense a lot last year. Because J.R. Smith, I love the guy. He's a good quarterback. He gets in his head a lot, and he'll make bad mistakes. And so their defense was bailing them out a lot, where this year their defense statistically is one of the worst. They look bad. The Breakers and the Stallions have been bad defenses, good offenses. But a lot of the time, it is Alex Magoo having to scramble. It is him having to do it with his legs. It is him having to make up a lot of time in the pocket. 2 weeks ago when he ran around for 15 seconds before he found Davis in the back of the end zone, without him, they aren't doing these things. That's why, I would make a case for MVP. Right now, it's him and Mark Thompson. The dude's playing crazy. And if he has a bad game, they will lose. I mean, that's the simple fact, is that he is he's the variable. It's, there's offense, defense, special teams for most teams. For the Stallions, it's how is Alex Magoo going to do today? And if it's not good, then we're going to lose. And I think that's crazy.
They probably are the team with the least amount of depth. And they had a few injuries, and that we can probably chalk it up to that. But I would agree. They're without Alex Magoo, they're the worst team in the league.
Well, at this point, I understand that you have injuries, but if you have IR players that are out for the entire season, then I don't even consider that roster anymore. I'm looking at what you have, what is available. And I mean, I just don't find it sustainable to have one player. It's like the Lamar Jackson of this league, where if Lamar Jackson goes down, the Ravens, you just don't trust them as much. And it's the same with other teams. Let's say the Gamblers, Kenji went down. They were still able to pull it out because the defense stepped up. I don't see that happening with the Stallions, but I could be wrong. But also, I hope that Alex Magoo stays healthy the entire season, because he is great for ratings and great for this league. And I would like to see someone compete with Mark Thompson for MVP. So there's that. And then what was the next game? The next game, we had the Maulers play the Showboats in what was the worst game this week. So I'm sure we will have one very happy video and one not so happy video. Let's start with the not so happy video.
What's up, guys? Webb here. After a disappointing loss this past weekend to the Showboats, the offense stalled the entire day. Quarterback change. Troy is still the guy, Horton said in his presser. The defense played great, but it's now must win. The Maulers need to win against the Stars this week, or the season might be over. They sit at 2-4, which, yes, is second place in the division, but they need that advantage for the playoffs with the Stars and take the 2-0 series lead. Stars are on a roll right now. It's the worst time to see the Stars. They're not scoring on offense, which is a good thing because that plays into our strength. We just have to figure out the offense against their defense, who is they've stepped up their game. But disappointing loss, and we're on to the next week. Web out.
I love that he is sitting in a car with the rainy window, like the meme where you got their hand looking out the rainy window. Oh my gosh, that was perfect.
I mean, it really is. When it rains, it pours. And that's what it was for the Maulers this weekend, was that nothing went right. To get shut out, I mean, that's debilitating. And for a team that really needed a statement game to go play the Showboats and just get shut out, I also would sit in the rain. So
Yeah.
that was a little poetic.
I know they already beat us, but I can't wait to play them again. I think we might be able to, because that is really a 50-50 game.
Dude, will it be the toilet bowl again, year 2?
Well, I don't think we play the last week of the season, but yeah, it probably will. I think we're likely the two worst teams, just because our lack of offense. Both teams just have lack of offense, and you can't win games when you score 9 points a game.
True, but then you have the Generals who pulled DeAndre Johnson. So I don't know. All three of them look bad right now, and that's the North. I think it's crazy, the absolute polarization between the divisions, that the South, everybody has a winning record, and in the North, everybody has a losing record except one. It's crazy, but also it's competitive and it's keeping everybody interested later in the year. So that's cool. But on the winning side of that blowout, who scored 22 to the 0 points, is the Showboats. And here we have our man in front of his flag, as he deserves.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Brandon, aka the Captain, here to talk to you about the run the Showboats have been on lately. Okay, we've won 3 in a row. We just shut out the Maulers 22-0. We've shut down guys like Wes Hills. We've shut down Reggie Corbin. And guess what? We got to do it one more time because we got a tough Gamblers team coming in. Okay, they're doing this and we're doing this. Okay, Gamblers and Showboats both on the ascend. One of them has to get beat. Okay, one of these winning streaks has to come to an end. Hoping it's the Gamblers. I'm going to have to contain Mark Thompson and then probably contain Mark Thompson. Okay, that dude is everything for the Gamblers. If we can just hold him to just a minimal game, not one of his exciting 3 touchdown games, Boats got a chance. Other than that, hey, it's all good in the yacht club. We're looking good. Boats vibes are high. Go Boats.
That's awesome. I love Brandon. That was great. The stop Mark Thompson, and then stop Mark Thompson, and then third, we probably got to stop Mark Thompson. That's awesome. I love that. Although you have to look at this week, the Generals contained Mark Thompson pretty well, other than his 1 touchdown, and we still won. But I digress. The Showboats look better. Honestly, I think it's kind of what happened to the Panthers last season, that the Panthers had Shea Patterson, and they had to start him basically, right? He's the Michigan guy. He played at Michigan. You have to start him to start the season, and then you're taking losses because you're starting the guy that you shouldn't be. And then now the Boats, they started Brady White because he's the Memphis guy. Then finally they move over to Cole Kelly, and it's a different team. The team looks to be, did it feel like as soon as he came in, they played harder? Which is random.
Kind of. I just think, he does a little bit better of a job at extending the plays, finding people that are open after, the coverage lessons when wide receivers are scrambling around for more than 3 seconds. And so it just seems like they're out there, they're working harder because they're going for longer. And yeah, it does seem like as soon as he came in and they started scoring some points, they just had a new life to him. And all of a sudden they're putting points on the board and wins in the win column. So I wish I knew the feeling. So,
well, maybe you have a new quarterback coming in for the Panthers, and maybe you see Eric Berrier finally. Everybody's been calling for it. Why not? At this point. But the Boats, yeah, Cole Kelly, 6'7". The dude is humongous, dwarfs everybody else on the field. And it seems like to tackle him, it just takes longer. Maybe he's just so tall that it takes him longer to hit the ground. But I don't know. It always feels like he's falling in slow motion. And yeah, he is extending the play, which me, you, Webb, everybody preaches all the time in these leagues that you have to have a running quarterback. You have to have somebody who's at least mobile, who can extend the play. And he's been doing it. And I don't know. The dude wills wins. Like, when I watch him, it feels like he is willing the win. Like he's putting all the effort and putting everything on the line. And I respect it.
No, the Maulers defense played really well. It was just, they would be, hard fought third downs that all of a sudden Cole Kelly's picking it up with his feet because he can truck linebackers. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it also doesn't help that then the Maulers offense would come out, do a 3-and-out, and then this defense that just played their heart out is back in 2 minutes. It's unsustainable. So yeah, the Maulers, they have to do something on offense. You can't leave your defense out there all the time, over and over, back against the wall. It's not fair. They're the best defense in the league, but eventually, the wall breaks down. The iron guard has some chinks in the armor, and you can't do that. So Troy Williams, I like the guy. I think he's great. From the beginning of the season, I thought he should have been the starter, but their play calling has to improve, and they just have to be able to move the ball, back to basics. But the Showboats defense, man, they're playing. Those guys are playing.
They stepped up. They have
suddenly they have tons of interceptions in 2 weeks. They had the sacks, against the Panthers. They had the strip sack to end the game. Their defensive line is monsters. That team looks crazy. They look so much different. It's so much different than the 2 weeks that we saw Todd Haley look like he was about to throw down with the opponent's coaches. And now suddenly he's a lovable bear and they look great. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it's crazy because with the Gamblers, I could see how they could get better, right? With the Showboats, they just looked like a dumpster fire. And then suddenly,
same guys come out. And they're all of a sudden.
It was crazy. So that's really cool. But I think that is all the videos that we have. So the last game to talk about is my team and the Generals. So here, let's talk about the Generals first, and then I'll wrap it up real quick in a bow. What did you think of the Generals?
Their offense was just lacking. It seemed like
it was bad.
It was really bad. And I think their defense was playing pretty well, considering the Gamblers came in as probably the hottest offense in the last 3 weeks. I mean, they were averaging like in the 30s per game. It was crazy. And they came out against the Generals, and the Generals actually held them. I mean, held them to field goals to end the half instead of touchdowns. Just the touchdown early on, and then I don't think there was another touchdown for the rest of the game. So I thought the offense, there was just something lacking. They couldn't get first.
DeAndre Johnson. DeAndre Johnson was lacking.
And it was because we saw him against Michigan. It was unbelievable. He's running 70-yard touchdowns against us. Yeah. The guy is a game changer. And so without him in the game, it's
you're just taking away a dimension of your offense, right?
Completely different team. Yeah. And I get it. You want to try new things, try and get more wins. But at some point you have your best player on the field. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. The Gamblers defense played lights out. To be able to hold Darius Victor like that and Trey, wild. I can't believe that they did that. I keep saying wild, but it was wild because you don't expect a team that has two of the best running backs in the league on the same team got held for little rushing yards. And then, they had no passing game, so that helped. I don't know. It was good. And you're right. The Gamblers offense, it didn't look that great. Kenji's first game back, They kept it pretty simple. I said it on my show earlier tonight that he was either dropping it into the flats or Kenji was shooting for home runs. There was no really in between. There was no intermediate game. And I'm just glad the defense played as well as they did, and that Mark Thompson showed in the first quarter that you can key me and I'm still going to, bash my head against the wall until I run through it. So that was cool. But I think there was improvement for both teams going forward. To beat the Showboats, the Gamblers definitely have to step up. But I think that the Generals had a better chance if DeAndre Johnson was in, but also in the second half, Shalom Luani and Chris Orr went down. Those are their two best defenders by far. Possibly the best person. Well, Shalom Luani is at least top 2 safety in the league. Chris Orr is top 2 linebacker in the league. And both of those guys went out on the same drive. Now, once that happened, I knew we had it in the bag because then they aren't able to, solidify the coverage while holding Mark Thompson. So once that happened, it really deflated their tires and the car came to a screeching halt. But I think they could turn it around. Who did the Generals play this week? They play... Is it the Panthers?
Michigan Panthers, yeah.
They play the Panthers. I don't know. This could be a bounce back week, right? They play the Panthers. Everybody seems to do better after they play the Panthers. But
hopefully this is our game back. We're not going to be at home. We're undefeated away, so hopefully we can bring that mojo back, get back into the win column, get back in the playoff picture. And as long as, if we beat them, we separate from them, and I don't see the Maulers winning game here anytime in the future. So they're my last glimpse of hope for the Panthers to not take last in this league.
All right.
Just like last year. Deja vu.
Same. Well, we have talked about all the games. Now, I want to know, this is the tightest week we've ever seen other than week 1, right? All the teams in each division are within a game of each other. So each game feels really important, but what is your game of the week?
That's a good question.
It's a good question, right? Because all these games feel very important.
I would say, well, because I like the
difference
South.
Between a win or a loss this week is like first in the division and last.
Yeah. And I like the South. I think that, all the teams are good, obviously, but it does feel like they're, the Breakers and the Gamblers are the two that have separated themselves as the playoff run. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia versus the Maulers, because this is a make or break week for both teams. Less so for the Stars, but if the Stars win, they've basically told the world that they're going to the playoffs. They're done. Like, it's over. And I think, especially since the Generals and Panthers are playing each other and one of them has to lose, and the Stars would be beating the Maulers, who would then lose, they're separating themselves from the pack with a win. And then the Maulers, this is their last chance, basically, I think. Without an offense, with only a defense, it can only take you so far. So I think they, already having 4 losses, they need to take a win, get a win, try and climb back up in the division and show why because they could be a scary team in the playoffs. You don't want to play a team that's going to hold you to 10 points. And then their offense shows up or not in the playoffs, especially now that they have a running quarterback. That can be real dangerous, as you saw against.
Yeah, it turns out Troy Williams is the Jimmy Butler of the USFL. He gets to the playoffs and suddenly the dude can't be stopped,
Yeah, exactly. And he's got the wheels. He can do it. So I'm going to go with Philly versus Maulers.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Birmingham, New Orleans, because if the Stallions lose and the Gamblers win, then the Stallions, it's hard to get them back into the playoffs, right? So for the reigning champions, this is their week that they have to prove they deserve to be in the playoffs, because if they lose, that's down 2 head-to-heads to the Breakers and 1 to the Gamblers. And then if the Gamblers win, they're down 2 games to both teams. So this is a really big week because we can either see the South shake up but stay close or separate. And so that's the game that really decides that for me in the South. So I'm excited about that one. But Mav, thank you for doing this with me. This has been fun. I want to give a shout out to one of our most loyal viewers, Xander Weeks, actually reached out and asked what we were going to do with Tell Me About It now that our host has left. And he said, I think it would be really, really cool to see a brothers Tell Me About It. So we did it this week. We made it happen. And I had a blast. I always love doing stuff with my brother. He mentioned it and I said, say less. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Xander. Thank you, Mav. Thank you, everybody who watched the show. Make sure to leave a comment. We read all of them. We comment back. Let us know what you think of what are your thoughts on our thoughts. And we will see you next week on Tell Me About It.